Fussell has now followed that up with a book of his own. The book is called One Mission, How Leaders Build a Team of Teams. The book shows how people in any field can apply General McCrystal's lesson to their organization. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
There is obviously concern around the nation. We're going to see the baseball game this evening, and we saw this tragedy happen yesterday. A sense of, because you think about national security, you think about this country, and you think about the timely conversation. What was your reaction when you watched that yesterday, and what we need to be thinking about?
Well, I think like everybody else, it's horror at what happened, but it's also the hope that it starts a national conversation about a number of issues. One is partisanship, one is about conversation itself, and another is about why so many people are being killed by guns in our country. And I think we need thoughtful people to come together and take on a tough issue.
You know, Chris, that's what struck me yesterday. You know, we've been reporting on it all morning, 50 to 100 shots. But when you actually hear the gunshots and you hear how long that it took and what those people must have been going through, you know, as a Navy SEAL, you know the sound. What were you thinking when you were looking at that and what it all means?
Well, obviously, sympathy for the folks that are there and the families and the broader problem here, which I think Stan just identified, that this is increasing and that we have to get our hands around this issue. And for people that haven't been exposed to that before, I mean, that's a life-changing moment that they'll wrestle with for years.
What sort of leadership do we need in situations like this, and what sort of lessons do you think, General, can be taken from the book?
Well, I think the first is it's not all about a single leader. It's about a community of people that come together, because when we are together, we get more brains involved, we get more wisdom involved, we get different perspectives, and we can make decisions that actually have some kind of consensus and support. So if we always look for a single iconic person, I think we make a mistake.
Yeah, you're right, Chris, about the leadership myth. What does that mean, leadership myth?
Well, it's in our nature. We have this tendency to want to look for one person that will lead us through tough times. I mean, we saw that in the military with our senior generals. Maybe they say, well, we've got the right general in place.
But you always hear in business you can only have one leader.
Well, you have one leader, but what great leaders have always done, and what is more important now than ever that they do, is they really bring teams together. So they create an environment where we could connect. That was what was critical for us in the military. And I think that's what's important now in industry, in politics. You see it all over the
leadership is leadership. I mean, whether it's in the military, whether it's in business, whether it's in politics.
That's right.
What are the core principles of that kind of leadership?
Well, in today's world, I think it's more important than ever that leaders create an environment where those that are closest to these very difficult problems, and the world is being driven by networked individuals and interconnected problems. Leaders have to empower those that are closest to those issues to be able to move with autonomy. That's what worked for us in the service, and that's what we see working well in industry as folks start to apply that sort of model.
What did you take from what you learned on the battlefield, how that can be translated into businesses? Because most of us don't have your skills or your skills, General. We're not Navy SEALs, and we're not equipped to know to do the things that you do. But you said there are things that you do on the battlefield that really can translate into business.
I've been out of the service for 5 years now, and I've been constantly impressed by the similarities between the service and industry. There's great leaders, there's great people in those organizations that want to do great things. They just want to be part of something that has deeper meaning and that they feel attached to. And that's what was critical for us in transitioning how special operations worked. And I think there's a lot of similar characteristics in industry.
Chris, Admiral McCrystal was here recently. He's got a book he's talking about, which is about lessons he's learned and about starting with making your bed. But one of the interesting things he talked about in terms of Navy SEALs was that you were often surprised by those who made the cut. Were you surprised?
It really is interesting. You'll have someone that just finished an Ironman triathlon who doesn't make it through the second week of training, and a 19-year-old kid from Iowa who's never seen the ocean who ends up being the top graduate. So it's really about inner character rather than physical skill.
Which is also about leadership.
Absolutely.
But what did you see in him, General? Because I love how you described him as, one of your favorite words, Charlie, intellectually curious. That there was something about him that stood out to you out of all the people that you worked with.
When I was first commanding and he was an operations officer in one of the subordinate task forces, Chris was asking different questions. He was asking big questions. He was asking how the pieces fit together, not about the focused, narrow things. And that, of course, makes an immediate impression.
One question about the Secretary of Defense, Mattis. The President seems to have given him lots of authority. Is that a good thing, or do we need to be reminded, that the heart of the American system is civilian control?
I think it is a good
By the
thing
president.
to empower subordinates who are closest to the problem to make decisions, but you don't abrogate responsibility. So the President of the United States still has responsibility for those decisions, and the American people ultimately still have ownership of those decisions. So it has to be a melded system in which civilians and military leaders together arrive at right decisions, but also prosecute policies that everybody supports, that everyone understands ultimately. They may not agree going in, but when the policy is set, we all have the resolve to follow through.
General, the war in Afghanistan has been going on since 2001. Where should troop levels be?
It's hard to say. I certainly would defer to what Jim Mattis and McCrystal on the ground are recommending. But the question I think we need to ask ourselves is, if we send more troops and that doesn't solve the problem or make the change we hope, what will we do then? And that's a question that the nation needs to ask itself about its long-term aims and objectives in Afghanistan and what we're willing to devote to achieve them.
All right.
Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Good to see the two of you. Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you.
Thank you.
That, of course, is Stanley McCrystal, the general, and Chris Fussell. The name of the book is One Mission. It's on sale now, wherever you like to buy your books. Best-selling author Malcolm Gladwell says,